Today our topic is safety measures in medical laboratory. So there are some do's and don'ts for the students, for the freshers and for the technicians who is working in the laboratory. Mainly these do's and don'ts are for hospitals and personal laboratory. It is not for the scientific level, okay? Not for higher researching level. So let me start. So, life threatening injuries and accidents can happen in the chemistry laboratory, right? So, for that reason, a student needs to be informed of the correct way to act and think to do in the laboratory. Okay, so for that, the following is a safety checklist that can be used as a handout to students to equip them with the safety do's and don'ts in laboratory. Okay, so I firstly tell you about the don'ts, then I will go with do's, that what we should not do in the laboratory, and after the don'ts I will go with what should do in laboratory. Like there are some do's and don'ts like do not eat in the laboratory, do not use laboratory glasswares for eating purpose, these type of. Okay, so let me start one by one. Okay, so first don't is do not engage in practical jokes conduct in the laboratory. Okay, means we should not make jokes in laboratory. We should do our work professionally. Okay, never run in the laboratory. We should not run. Okay, third, use of personal audio and video equipments is prohibited in the laboratory. Okay, means we should not go with the videos that we are watching video and our test is going on. So this is the bad habit. Second, next, work in the laboratory without supervision of the teacher. Okay, means we should be do our laboratory test or function in the supervision of the teacher or our senior. Next, never leave equipments while in progress. Okay, next, never point the open end of test tube. Means the open end should not be, means the test tubes should not be open. Never point the open end of test tube containing a substance at yourself or other. Means you should not keep it to yourself the open end, because if there is some chemical or reaction is going on, so sometimes it release gas as well, right? So what for this purpose, so for this purpose, on that time what's happened, you can inhale some gas which is very harmful for you. Okay, so that's why we should not do this thing. Never fill up pipette using mouth suction. We should not pipette by mouth. Okay, sometime what's happened, if we are sucking by mouth, that chemical or that diluting fluid, that something, it may be something, it may be sample as well, on the time it will go inside of your mouth. Okay, so this is very dangerous. Next don't is do not leave lit Bunsen burner unattended. Means your Bunsen burner is flaming on and you left it. So this is the bad. And second, make sure no flammable solvents are in surrounding area when lighting a flame. Okay, suppose you flamed a Bunsen burner and you put some, which that chemical who is flammable. On that time what's happened, there may be some accident or misfortune can be happen. Okay, so for this reason we should not keep together flame and flammable solvents. Next, turn off all the heating. Left it, I will tell you about it in do's. Do not block the sink drain with debris. Okay, we should not block our drains. Next, never block access to exit or emergency equipment. Okay, next, do not touch any chemical directly with your hands. We should not touch any chemical. Suppose you are checking the some like Leishman stain you put in your hand, and on the time it become, your hand become blue. So this is not good for health. Okay, because some chemical, some reagent contain much harmful radiation as well, chemical as well, so this is not good for health. Next, never add water to the concentrated acid. We should not add water in acid. If we wants to dilute our acid, on the time firstly take water and then put your concentrated acid or base drop wise drop in water. Never add water in acid. You must add acid in water. Okay, I think you understand it. Next, never touch, taste or smell any chemical unless instructed to do this. Okay, we should not taste as well. Next, never place the container directly under your nose and inhale vapor. I told you about this. Next, never use laboratory glassware for eating or drinking purpose. I told you this thing as well. Do not use broken and cracked glassware apparatus. Means for testing purpose, you should not use the broken glass. It may be harmful for you. Okay. Next, do not attempt unauthorized experiment. Suppose you wants to do some experiment. Okay, means you didn't learn about this, but you want to make research, you want to do this thing, so it is not good for this time. Maybe that experiment may cause misfortune, may cause disaster in the laboratory. So that's why we should not do this. If you wants to do this, on the time you can go with an open space and on the time. But firstly I will suggest you should not do this, because you are not much aware. You are just diploma holder, your bachelor holder, your master holder, but you are not good. You are not professional in this thing. You don't have much experience for this. That's why you should ignore it. Next, for diluting any acid, always add acid to water, not water to acid. I told you this thing. Okay. And one last, person who are at increased risk of acquiring infections like children, pregnant women, immunodepressed person. So that person should not go in laboratory, because on that time that person can take some infection from the chemicals, from the samples, these things. So we should tell our patient to stay away from the laboratory. Okay. And sometimes you saw that if a person is ill, on that time only one person or two person can meet him from the some space, by giving some space. Why it's happened? Because that person who is ill, maybe he person is not good health now, in good health, or maybe right now he is immunodepressed person right now on that time. So we should take space from the other things, like different chemicals, different person, because one person carry much of the chemical in herself, in it themselves. Okay, that's so these all points are for don'ts. Now I will going to tell you about the don'ts, what you should do in the laboratory. Okay, so some do's, like working space should be decontaminated every day. Means your workspace should be neat and clean. Okay. Next, all contaminated liquid or solid waste should be decontaminated before disposal. Means you wants to dispose it, so before disposing you should decontaminate it by some hot air oven, by autoclave. There are some equipment, right? About the equipment I will tell you in my upcoming videos. Next, all spills, accident and potential exposure to infection material must be reported immediately to the laboratory supervisor. Means if there any accident of spills or any exposure, so on the time we should report immediately to our supervisor. Now next is, hands should be washed by using chemical disinfection such as 5% phenol or Lysol after handling infectious material. Suppose you are handling some infectious material, on the time after handling you should wash your hand by 5% phenol or maybe by Lysol. Maybe there are some other sanitizers, you can use them as well. Next, laboratory apron must be worn in the laboratory and gloves must be worn during all the procedures involve direct contact with infected material. Suppose you are handling some infectious material, on the time you should wear the gloves, you should wear the apron, you should wear eye protective, okay, you should wear the hair mask. And suppose you are doing with your leg as well, so on that time you should wear the shoe cover as well. Next, laboratory doors should be kept closed when work is in progress. Okay, we should not open the laboratory because the vapor of the environment, it may go outside as well, or it may be infected. Turn off the all heating apparatus, gas valves and water tap when not in use. Means we should turn off all the equipments when we are not using them. Next, know the location of all exit in the laboratory and building. Means suppose maybe it maybe misfortune it on the time any misfortune happen in the laboratory, what will you do? You must know all the exits to go outside to protect yourself, okay, to protect other. That's why next, know the location and operation procedure of fire extinguisher, and you should know the location of fire extinguisher as well. Suppose there may be fire on that time, for not making much amount of misfortune, much amount of accident on the time, you must know these things. Next, always use a spatula to remove a solid reagent from the container. Okay, means for putting out any chemicals, you must use spatula. Next, use a water hot water bath, okay, to heat flammable liquids. Next, thoroughly clean your laboratory workspace at the end of the laboratory session. Means suppose it will happen evening or night, whenever you closed your laboratory or hospital. uh, Before it, you should clean all the workspace. Next, use tongue to handle the hot object. Tongue, which helps you to handle the equipments, hot, hot equipments. Next, if corrosive substance fall on the cloths, wash it with large quantity of water. Okay, and then affected part of laboratory is treated with sodium bicarbonate. Okay, next, always follow prescribed method of heating and mixing. Prescribed method of heating and mixing. Next, in case of eye accident, flood the eye with water. Do not rub in each persist conduct the doctor. Means some fluids or some chemicals fall down in your hand or at your leg, do not scratch there, okay, do not rub there. Okay, next, study the procedure and precautions carefully before performing the equipment. Means you must know the what we call procedure, all the procedure, that each step of doing any procedure. I forgot the name, um, but it's okay. And last one, always take reading from the bottom meniscus of liquid. Okay, maybe you see there is when in test tube you fill some liquid or sample, on the time a meniscus will form, a concave structure, convex structure is formed, so it's called the meniscus. So bottom meniscus, from the bottom meniscus you should take reading. Okay, one more thing, suppose in any accident in your laboratory blood is fall down, maybe, so on that time you should take blotting paper and you should keep all blotting, firstly you should clean the blood by the blotting paper, and after that you should, when all blood is sucked up by the blotting paper, after that you should go with the cleaning reagents agents. Okay, and then brooming, then cleaning. So these all points are for do's and don'ts. What should you do in laboratory and what should you not do in the laboratory. I hope you understand my all points. If you have any query, any doubt, you can ask me by commenting me. Thank you so much for watching my this video.